So Classroom the Elite Season 2 has finally ended, and while we're still waiting for Season 3, in this video I want to talk about the top 5 best episodes of Classroom the Elite Season 2. Now of course this is all just my opinions, everyone has different opinions on what's considered the best episodes for Classroom the Elite Season 2, so this is just my list. So if there's like a certain episode that's not in this list, just know that this is just my top 5 list of best Classroom the Elite Season 2 episodes. Everyone has different opinions over which one is going to be their favorites and not favorites, but with that, let's just begin. The way I narrowed down the best episodes in my opinion of Classroom the Elite is 3 things. 1, visuals and how well the episode looked. 2 is how they adapted the source material, and lastly the pacing of the episode. So coming in number 5 is probably the most recent episode, which is the final episode of Classroom the Elite Season 2, and that is episode 13. Now this episode pretty much summarizes the entirety of volume 7.5, which I was surprised they managed to summarize this very well. Now of course they had to remove some dialogue and remove some moments from volume 7.5, but it's still a very good summarization as to what 7.5 was all about. We got to see the aftermath of what happened with the Anakoji and Ryuen fight, in which Ryuen stepped down as a leader and was planning on dropping out, but Anakoji made sure that didn't happen. We also got the conversation between Anakoji and Ryuen, in which Anakoji reveals that he is planning on getting Kushida expelled from the school. We got the date between Anakoji and Sato. We also had the moment in which Kei realized that she is slowly starting to have feelings for Anakoji. Then there was a whole moment between Anakoji and Kei where they were just simply talking. So yeah, a lot of big moments were covered in this episode because these were probably the biggest moments in 7.5. Now, would I love to see the other moments that they did cut down completely? Yes, like for example, in the anime, they just simply show us a montage of the date between Anakoji and Sato, but in the light novels, there was actually more conversations and there was actually more interesting interactions between Anakoji and Sato and Kei and Hirata. There was just a lot of conversations that were really interesting. Not only that, but it was during this date as well that there was supposed to be a moment in which Nagumo confronts Anakoji. Now this scene will become important in later on in the series because Nagumo is going to play not just a big part of the story, but it's also in this scene where we find out that Nagumo is starting to have interest in Anakoji. And this is important because in the later arc, in the next arc that's going to be shown in season 3, Nagumo is going to play a huge role in it. Now of course I'm not going to spoil anything for anime only, just know that Nagumo is going to be involved in the next upcoming arc, so just know that. But yeah, aside from that, aside from those moments, I still enjoyed episode 13. And another reason why I enjoyed episode 13 was because we finally got the scene between Sakinagi and Anakoji. There were so many people that believed that Studio Lurch wasn't going to include this scene, but they were proven wrong. Now yes, they did change a few things with the scenery and some of the dialogue was cut, but at least they included it because I'm just glad they included it, because you won't believe how many people thought it was going to be cut, even though a vast majority of people were saying how this could be just like the scene used for a cliffhanger for season 3, and that was true because we will find out in episode 13 that they used it for a cliffhanger for season 3. But yeah, anyways, episode 13, great finale, great ending to season 2. And yeah, that's why it's at number 5. Coming in number 4 is episode 9, which is pretty much the end of the paper shuffle exam. Now, the reason why I enjoyed this episode mostly is because I got to see Kushida's plan get destroyed, because she really thought that she was going to take down Anakoji and Horikita, but little did she know that these two made sure that didn't happen and made sure that Kushida's plan was a total failure. And while that is the biggest moment in this episode, there were also the little moments that I enjoyed about this episode as well. For example, we find out that Horikita made a plan on her own. She didn't rely on Anakoji this time, which I think is good character development because it will show us that Horikita is slowly starting to become independent. She doesn't need Anakoji's advice or Anakoji's ideas to do things. No, she is slowly starting to come up with her own ideas and her own strategies to make sure she wins. And there was a whole scene between Kei and Kushida, which just shows you how much of a good partner Kei is to Anakoji. You know, it's just those little moments that make the episode even more better. And let's not forget that this episode was also the setup as to what's to happen in the upcoming arc, which was obviously the rooftop arc, because towards the end, Ryuen is starting to make his move to find the mastermind at Class D, and that's why I believe episode 9 belongs in the number 4 spot. And coming in number 3 is episode 3. Now I know some people are going to say that the reason why I'm including this episode is just because of the spread your leg scene, but that's just one of the reasons why I enjoyed episode 3. Now let's just get this over with. Yes, this was the episode in which it showed us the spread your leg scene, and this was like probably one of the episodes where I was just mostly worried as to how they were going to handle that scene, because it's pretty dark and pretty messed up in the light novels, and a lot of people, myself included, were worried that they were going to have to tone it down drastically, that they were going to tone it down because it was just too dark or maybe too messed up to include in the anime. But thankfully they did it justice. Now granted, they did tone it down a little bit, and they did cut some a little bit of the dialogue because there was more things that happened in this scene in the light novels, but they did do it justice. I think they got the whole point of what this scene was supposed to be about. It was a very messed up and dark moment in Classroom the Elite. And let's just talk about the visuals as well. The way they showed Anna Koji confronting Kei in this scene was also spectacular. Like, the visuals were just amazing because this was underneath the boat. But yeah, that's just one of the reasons why I enjoyed episode 3. Yes, this was the scene that a lot of people were talking about in episode 3, but there were also other moments that happened in episode 3 that were really interesting as well. Like, for example, before the spread your legs scene, the whole moment between the class C girls and Kei was pretty dark because it was a very like messed up scene in terms of how bad they were bullying Kei, because I'm pretty sure anybody who has ever been bullied or has seen someone get bullied before, they know how terrible it is to be a victim of bullying, and I'm pretty sure everyone felt sympathy towards Kei when this was all happening. I think this was the moment when I was reading this for the first time. I think this was the moment where I said to myself that Kei deserves happiness. I think Kei deserves everything good to happen to her because she's been through so much stuff, right? She's been a victim of bullying, and it's very clear that this has affected her so much. So when this scene was shown in the anime in episode 3, it brought back that whole thing where I was like, yeah, Kei definitely deserves the happiest things to happen to her, and of course she will eventually get that in the near future. But I think what also makes this episode very good is how they handled the whole thing with Ichinose finding out about Anna Koji's plan. It seems that Ichinose knew what Anna Koji was planning on doing, and it's a pretty interesting moment because we got to see that Ichinose isn't stupid. Yes, she's a nice girl, she always wants to help people out, but she's not stupid. She's clearly smart, and it's very clear she has tricks up her sleeve as well. But what makes it even more interesting is that when Anna Koji asked her why didn't she stop his plan, or why didn't she say anything to stop his plan from working, she said that it wouldn't benefit her class, so therefore there was no reason to stop his plan whatsoever, showing us that Ichinose is a very calculative person as well, similar to Anna Koji. But yeah, while the spread your legs scene was the highlight of the episode, it wasn't just that moment that really made me like episode 3, it was the other moments as well. So that's why episode 3 belongs in the number 3 spot. And coming in number 2 is episode 11. Now this episode only had 2 major events happening in this episode. This was the confrontation between Ryuin and Koenji, and the torture scene in which Kei was getting tortured by Ryuin and his group to find out who the mastermind of Class D is, because they concluded that it's her that knows who the mastermind of Class D is. And I think it's obvious as to what makes this episode really good and very impactful is because we got to see that Kei is very loyal to Anna Koji. Even though she could have easily just said his name and Ryuin would just left her alone, she still fought back and not told Ryuin what his name was, showing us that Kei is starting to not really care that she is Anna Koji's partner, showing us that Kei doesn't mind working for Anna Koji. But of course, we have to talk about the torture scene of Kei. Now, as a light novel reader, I already knew this was going to happen, but one thing that I did notice, I forgot to mention when I was, reviewing this episode in a video a while back, and it's the fact that it was actually more darker in the anime, the torture scene, than in the light novel. In the light novel, it was just Ryuin telling Ishizaki to just grab buckets of water and then they would throw it at Kei. Now, of course, that's messed up already, but in the anime, it was more darker because Ryuin not only tied Kei with zip ties, which is something that he didn't do in the light novel, but he also grabbed a towel, or he had a towel, and put it on Kei's face and started pouring water from there. Now, you may be wondering why this is a huge deal. Well, if you don't know, this is an actual torturing method used in real life. Like, this is an actual method that has been used by people to torture someone. And the only reason why I know all this is because I have watched spy movies and action movies in the past, and I know there have been moments in which they use this torturing method to torture people, which makes this scene even more insane because it goes to show you how Ryuin is willing to do all this just so that he could get the answer he wants, which made this episode even more memorable because the episode actually made this scene even more impactful than it was in the light novel. And it's not just me, I've seen a lot of people discussing this scene, saying how in the anime it was much more darker than it was in the light novel. So even light novel readers are amazed just how much darker this scene got in the anime than it was already in the light novel. So that's why episode 11 is on the number 2 spot. Coming in number 1, I think it's very obvious because this is probably the one that I saw a lot of people talking about the most, and it's probably the one that I know a lot of people are going to remember Clash of the Elite Season 2. and that is episode 12, the fight between Ryuen and Anakoji. Now I know some people are still kind of confused as to why they changed the scenery in the first place, because in the light novels it happened in the rooftop, whereas in the anime it happened in some building. Would I have loved this to be happening in the rooftop? Yes, but at the end of the day there's nothing we can do anymore because the episode has aired out. But what I was mostly more interested in is how they were going to do the fight, because this fight is probably one of the most hypest fights anybody who has read Classroom of the Elite was looking forward to. And did they deliver? Yes, they did. Now, of course, the fight wasn't like Demon Slayer level or Jujutsu Kaisen level, because it was just going to be a normal fight between two people. There's no power-ups, there's no swords, there's no stuff like that. But for what they did with this fight was really amazing. The choreography, Anakoji showing his true strength. The fact that he was able to take down 4 people by himself just shows you just how strong Anakoji is. And let's not forget the whole fight between Ryuen and Anakoji. Ryuen was putting up a good fight, and it clearly shows that he was actually really looking forward to fighting with Anakoji, but of course Anakoji beat him very easily. And I think what made this fight even more impactful was the fact that Ryuen finally felt fear. All this time Ryuen has always boasted how he never felt fear ever in his life, and how he's always never really felt scared about his life. However, in this situation it was completely different, because Anakoji clearly was somebody he could not defeat very easily, and it's very clear that Anakoji is pretty much like a perfect human being, and you can say he's a monster because he clearly had no problem with defeating Ryuen. Also, the fact that his emotions never changed, he still had the same face like he always does, showing us that this wasn't really anything special to him. From the OST to the lighting to once again the choreography in which how Anakoji and Ryuen were fighting, everything about this episode was perfect. And not just that, but also what happened after the fight, in which Anakoji and Kei having a conversation in which Anakoji tells Kei that no matter what happens, he is always going to protect her whenever she is in danger, showing us that Anakoji kept his promise to Kei, and thus this will eventually be more of a reason why Anakoji and Kei's relationship will build even stronger. Now I could go on and on and on about what makes episode 12 such a good episode of Classroom of the Elite, but you get the idea. I did have a video in which I talked about episode 12 as a whole and analyzed everything. However, it got taken down because of a copyright claim, and we all know how copyright claims work on YouTube. There's sometimes they're a huge mess. They're like a headache to deal with. So sadly the video is down. But with this basic summary of why I liked episode 12, I'm pretty sure you get the idea as to why I enjoy episode 12 and why it's on the #1 spot. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire video. Obviously people are going to have different opinions towards different episodes of Classroom of the Elite season 2. Once again, this is just my opinion as to what I consider the top 5 best episodes of Classroom of the Elite season 2. And with that, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.